Hello again, it's Miss Darling in the studio, and I thought it would be fun this time around to make some masterboards strictly or almost strictly out of book page material. And so I have some samples here I've already done, and I'll show you these real quickly and then we'll get into making one. So here's one example. And you can see that, I have various types of book page here, and then using some washi tape to fill in some of the gaps. And here's another one. These, of course, can be left as they are or embellished even further. And I may consider doing that today in this video. And then here's a third one. And you can see they have the same color palette pretty much and the same flavor, but they're very different from each other as well. And so you want to, as you create masterboards to use in a journal, you want to have companions that are very similar and yet different. And so that's our goal. And so I'm going to be starting again with just a simple sheet of craft paper, and this is 8.5 by 11 inches, which would be somewhat comparable to your A4 if you're not in the United States. So in fact, I think maybe I might even tape this up here. No, that's about right there. I might just kind of tape that down because I have a tendency to lose the bottom or the top as I work along, and then I suppose that probably makes it frustrating for viewers to not be able to see the whole thing at one time. So let's try to alleviate some of that frustration. And I'll just kind of give a little bit of a art tape down on the corners. By the way, I use art tape and not masking tape. It's very similar to masking tape, but it doesn't have the grip that masking tape has, and so when you want to remove it, you don't wind up destroying what's underneath the tape, like can often happen to you with masking tape. So now that's a little bit anchored down and keep me from going out of frame, hopefully. All right, so now it's just a matter of pulling out some book pages. And so I have this little box here full of some vintage papers. These are really old. And we'll use up some of this stuff and then maybe add some more modern pages to the mix as we go. We'll see. So, okay. I do like to always trim off the borders, and so that I just am working with the text part of a page. You can leave the borders on if you like. It's up to you. In fact, you could maybe do that and then, cover that over with masking tape or a piece of lace or some fabric or just other paper. That's always an option. So we've got that sheet, and then let's see about pulling up something that looks a little different. There's poetry. That's what we got here. I don't know if these are from the same book or not. so. Okay, well, we'll get started with these. And for this project, I'm going to use a glue stick. I like being able to get some glue over the whole surface and not just here and there. Oops, sorry. I put you out of the way temporarily. How's everybody doing? I hope you're all well and prospering and kind of getting past this terrible pandemic we've all been suffering through. I hope none of you have had to suffer the tragic loss of a loved one during this time. So sad. All right. Going to lay this in right up there. Oh, me. Not as organized today as I'd like to be. This vintage paper does break away quite easily, so one does have to be very careful using it. We're going to have a lot of blank space using this page, but we'll deal with that later. So I'm not going to bother to trim anything off. On this one, we'll just put it down and see where we go from there. So I think I'm going to move over here, but I'm not going to go to the edge, except at the bottom. I'm going to lay that in there. All right. Next, I have some other. These are dictionary pages. And I cut out an illustration. That's why you see this big gap there. Maybe come back later and glue the illustration back on in a, a specific place. So if we do something like that, that'll fill in some of that bare spot there right in the middle. Now you could glue these pages, sideways or upside down and stuff like that, but today I'm just going to have everything running the same direction, and that's what I did with my examples, so I want to stay consistent with that. So we'll drop that in there. And maybe this piece can go on the other side. think too much about these. Just, you know, grab stuff and plop it down. If you don't like it later, you can always just, you know, glue something else on top. So not to be too concerned. All right. Now, what else do we have here? This is a good way to, you know, just use up a whole bunch of stuff that you've got just clogging up your drawers or baskets or however you store things. I have a lot of things here in this wire basket. Here's a little bit of script. Maybe I'll throw that in. You want some musical paper? That could be nice. Change of pace. Just pick up some bits and pieces to fill gaps. Just a little bit of ledger paper. There's some Japanese or Chinese. I'm going to throw some of that in there. Okay, that's enough for right now. So, what do we need? Maybe do that up there. Whoa. Getting down to the bottom of my stick here. I can't just finish it off. All right. Sorry, had a phone call right then and interruptions. So where were we? Okay, I like that up there. And we'll drop this in down here. Now if you want to keep, make a masterboard that will essentially turn into a journal page, you might want to keep it fairly simple and not put a lot of embellishment on it. But if you plan on cutting it up into tags and various other ephemera, then you'll probably want to add a lot more design elements to this from what I'm doing, and each has a very valid purpose. And if I'm not sure what I want to do, what I'll often do is, when I get just the basic done, I'll scan that, make a copy, or at least scan it so I have a file of it so I can print it off at some future point, and then further embellish the copy I make instead of the actual masterboard. So, it just depends on your overall purpose and how versatile you want that to be for you. And then, make your masterboard accordingly. I like to really pack a lot on a masterboard if I'm going to cut it up, because that just gives you a much better chance of each tag or art card, whatever it is you're cutting out of it, looks as good as possible, as interesting as possible, rather than real bland with not much going on. So we're going to make this a lot jazzier with the washi tape in a minute, but for right now, this is almost done as far as just a basic board is concerned. And I just have this one little spot down here. Maybe we'll throw in a bit of this ledger paper there. That'll use that up. Has a bit of a tear in it anyway, so having it down here in a corner, if the tear shows, it's no big deal. It's no big deal anyway, because this is junk journal, so we don't mind things looking old and grungy and torn and dilapidated and deteriorated. We really don't. Alright, so now I've got some bare spots here and here and up here. And so let's see what we have in washi tape. I've had this fabric tape that is a Tim Holtz product I've had for quite a while and haven't used it yet. Yeah, I don't think I'll use that on this. This is more expensive, of course, than your regular paper washi tape. But I have some little cartons of tape in black and white, and this is what is kind of my go-to stuff for a project like this that's very neutral. So, okay, I've got these big numbers. We'll take this tape off now at this point. We've pretty well got our board done. And let's see, maybe run some of this straight across over to here. Remember, I said we want it to be similar but different from what we've already done. We want it to be a nice companion. Because one day I'll use these in a journal, and I like to have companions to create unity in my work. Okay, that'll do for that one. What else we got here? So we have numbers. Let's maybe run some alphabet letters up here. And maybe a few down here. And what else can we do? Excuse me. Don't think I've used any of this yet. A little bit on the light side. Don't know that it'll show up much, but let's just drop a little bit in right here. Okay, I think maybe I'm going to wrap this one up as it is, and then it leaves a lot of room for choices for further embellishment of things that are not text or numbers, and I like having that versatility. I'll put some of this tape away, and then we'll take a look and see how this board fits in or doesn't with the others. So say that was pretty easy, wouldn't you say? I mean, we're just kind of grabbing stuff and throwing it down haphazardly in a sense, and you know, none filling in the gaps, and that's about it. And what could be easier than that? Okay, so this is the one we just got through doing, and here's another one, very similar color palette, and this one is a little more on the white side. Here's another one. Those two could be real good companions, and then I think I would companion these two together because we got some lights and darks going on in these two, and then these are mostly just more along the line of dark pages. So yeah, that gives me 4 great masterboards that can be used in a journal of this nature, and you know, whether it's, you know, a very textual driven journal, or whether it's just the color is very neutral like this with a lot of brown tones and tans, beige, off-white, white, black. You know, it could be a journal that's, you know, just based on that color palette. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about maybe ideas for further embellishment. And I vote for keeping everything very neutral. You can, you know, if you have a stash of this is black on kind of a light tan beige background, that would certainly be very beautiful on this. I've got some vellum here, you know, black and white on vellum. It's kind of a beige colored vellum here. This one is lighter, and so you could see where if you know, cut some out, imagery out, like say from these butterflies, you know, and then, you know, glued them down on top. That could be a really great idea. I don't think I'm going to do it myself at this point because I haven't really thought through yet how I ultimately will use these. But I just want to give you ideas of, you know, how you could take and further embellish it, you know, and turn it into something really outstanding. Here's a little bug, I think. Is that a bug? Well, I guess it's a flower. It's kind of very faint on the edges, but maybe, you know, put something like that up there in a bald spot. And, you know, so you could use flowers, you could put animals, you could put people. You know, a lot of, there are, you know, people who've come out with vintage looking people, and they're all in, you know, black and white. Or maybe you've got some things like this that could be, you know, just randomly stuck down there if I was going to cut this up and make various, make various ephemera out of it. You could just randomly glue things down, okay, and then make your cuts, and hopefully some of these little imagery here will wind up in the perfect place. So that's an idea. Throw these back in here. I have some of these little, I don't know, they're imagery printed in China that come in these little booklets, I think, of sort that have images on vellum. And so maybe you have some of that, or here's some, they're not stickers, so these are, just various odds and ends of things that have been printed up, but they're on a shiny sort of acetate plastic, and I do not like that. But if you want to turn something shiny like this into more of a matte finish, if you go over it afterwards with some clear gesso, that will take away a lot of that shine and tone it down. So they are, usable. They're just not my favorite type of thing. But this is a good way to use up stuff like this that maybe you wouldn't want to use on a journal page, but it's fine on a masterboard, especially if it's going to be cut up anyway. So, there's some ideas to that. What else do I have here? Here's kind of more of the same of that, stuff that's, I don't know why they would put it on a shiny acetate. Just bugs me. What do I have in this? I have this little drawer in a little stand that I have here on my table, and I try to kind of organize things by color a lot. So now here's a bunch of stickers on, well, it's shiny on the reverse side, but it's matte on the top side. So, these make really nice things. You probably want to pick something fairly dark that's going to show up against the busy background of text. So that's a way to go. I think these are called like washi stickers. I have a bunch of those. I have a bunch of things that like this that somewhere along the line I cut out and threw in here simply because they're black and white. And so then if I'm looking for something black and white, they're easy to find. Now here's a great idea. I like this, and maybe I'll cut some of these up and put some of these down, these vintage looking keys. And I have several of them apparently. Have no idea where they came from, but I do like them. And so I might work with some of this in a few places. This is just printed on paper, so I'll need to fussy cut those if I'm going to use them. But I'm going to leave them out because I think maybe I just jolly well might. Anyway, I hope I've given you some great guidance on using up book paper on your masterboards, and some ideas on how to embellish them beyond the point that I took, as I showed you the makings of, is it that one? Yeah, it was that one. I think maybe I need a little bit more No, that's not the one I just got through making. But I think this could use a little bit more washi tape down in this area. So maybe this is the one I just got through doing. Yeah, I think maybe, and maybe a little bit more over in this area over here. I think to be a little more consistent throughout the 4 boards. Yes, indeed. So I'm going to move on here and get some other stuff done. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please give the video a like and leave your comment, ask questions. I love to answer questions, and hopefully you're subscribed and will be back again to enjoy more content as we go along. I thank you for being here and watching, and I appreciate you so much. Thanks so much. And with that said, this is Miss Darling calling this a wrap. Bye-bye.